The campus courtyard had its own rhythm at noon, a familiar mix of chatter, footsteps, and the distant thud of a basketball hitting concrete. Students clustered around the food trucks, backpacks slung low, laughter rising and falling like waves. In the middle of it all stood the black belt bully, a tall, broad-shouldered senior whose reputation traveled faster than he did. Everyone knew his name, even if they'd never spoken to him. He had trophies in the gym cabinet, clips of his sparring matches floating around social media, and a grin that suggested the world existed mainly to watch him win. Today, he was in a particularly loud mood, cracking jokes, shoving shoulders playfully but hard enough to sting, feeding on the attention that followed him like a shadow. Near the benches at the edge of the courtyard, a quieter scene unfolded. A janitor struggled with a cart that had caught on a cracked tile, the wheels squealing in protest. Most people stepped around him without looking, eyes glued to their phones. One student paused. She wasn't remarkable at first glance. Average height, simple clothes, hair tied back in a practical knot. She pushed the cart free with a short, efficient motion and offered a small nod to the janitor. "You're good now," she said, voice calm, almost soft. The janitor smiled, relief etched into his tired face, and thanked her before moving on. The bully noticed. He always noticed anything that disrupted the flow of attention toward him. "Hey," he called out, laughter already in his voice. "What are you doing, playing hero?" His friends chuckled, sensing entertainment. He sauntered over, black belt tied loosely around his waist, as if even gravity took him lightly. "This isn't charity hour," he added, clapping slowly. "Didn't know we had social workers in training here." A few students winced, others leaned in. The girl turned to face him, expression unreadable. "He needed help," she replied. No anger, no sarcasm. Just a statement of fact. That only made the bully laugh harder. "Ah, that's cute," he said. "You know who I am, right?" He spread his arms, inviting recognition. "I teach classes. I compete. I win." His eyes dropped briefly to her shoes, then back up, dismissive. "You should probably walk away." She didn't. Instead, she shifted her backpack off one shoulder and set it down carefully, as if she were preparing to sit and study. The movement drew murmurs from the crowd. Phones began to rise, screens glowing. The bully's grin widened. "Oh, this is perfect," he said. "You want a lesson?" He bowed with exaggerated flair, mocking the ritual he claimed to respect. "Don't worry," he added, lowering his voice, "I'll go easy." The air seemed to thicken as he stepped forward. His stance was aggressive, flashy, meant to intimidate, meant to impress. She stood opposite him, feet shoulder-width apart, hands relaxed at her sides. To an untrained eye, she looked unprepared. To a trained one, she looked rooted, balanced, present. The bully lunged, fast and confident, aiming to overwhelm her with speed and strength. In that instant, laughter still echoed, someone shouted encouragement, and the campus seemed to hold its breath. What happened next was almost too quick to follow. She moved not backward but slightly to the side, a subtle shift that stole his angle. Her hand met his wrist, not with force but with timing, redirecting his momentum. Her other arm followed, guiding, controlling, closing distance instead of creating it. There was no wasted motion, no flourish. The bully's eyes widened as his balance vanished, the ground rushing up to meet him. A dull, final sound marked the end of his charge as he hit the concrete, stunned into silence. The courtyard went quiet, no cheers, no laughter, just the soft hum of phones. Still recording and the distant clatter of the janitor's cart disappearing around a corner. She stepped back, breathing steady, eyes calm, as if she'd merely corrected a misstep rather than dropped the campus's loudest figure. The bully lay there, blinking, his laughter gone, his confidence shattered. In that stillness, everyone understood they had witnessed something rare, not raw power, but control. The courtyard remained still for a heartbeat longer, as if the campus itself was catching its breath. Students who had been leaning forward with excitement now froze, phones in hand, unsure whether to laugh, gasp, or step back. The black belt bully sat on the ground, one hand pressed to his shoulder, eyes wide and filled with disbelief. He had faced tough opponents before, yes, but none like this. Someone who could move with both grace and precision, someone who seemed to anticipate his every move without even trying. The quiet girl who had just disarmed him now stood a few feet away, posture perfectly relaxed, shoulders down, breathing even. Her expression betrayed nothing, but the subtle glint in her eyes suggested awareness, intelligence, and a calm confidence that came only from true mastery. Whispers started to ripple through the crowd, growing louder with each passing second. "Did you see that? She didn't even try to hit him hard. How did she?" Phones were raised higher, videos recording every detail, ready to explode on social media. Some students approached cautiously, as if to get a closer look, but instinct told them to maintain distance. The girl's movements had been so clean, so precise, that even the bully's closest friends were impressed, albeit silently, their jaws tight with a mix of awe and disbelief. The bully tried to push himself up, grunting and muttering curses under his breath, but every movement seemed awkward now. He looked at her, expecting some sign of mockery or malice, but there was none. She wasn't interested in humiliation. She had simply stopped him, corrected his overconfidence, and that was it. That made it even more intimidating. Teachers and security personnel started arriving, drawn by the unusual quiet and the gathering crowd. One security guard stepped forward, concerned about potential escalation. "Everything okay here?" he asked, voice careful. The bully scrambled slightly, trying to mask both the embarrassment and the growing fear that maybe this was more than just a student skirmish. He nodded quickly, brushing dirt off his pants, but he didn't speak, still unable to fully process what had just happened. Meanwhile, the girl calmly retrieved her backpack, adjusting the strap over her shoulder, as if she had just completed a routine errand rather than stopping the most notorious fighter on campus in his tracks. A murmur of conversations began to spread among the spectators, some analyzing the technique they had witnessed. "It was like she knew exactly where his center of gravity would go," one student whispered to another. "I've never seen anyone just redirect momentum like that," said a second. The crowd began to connect the dots. The movements weren't random, the reactions weren't lucky. This wasn't someone relying on strength. It was someone who had trained, disciplined, and refined every motion until it was flawless. Even the most skeptical observers were forced to reconsider their assumptions about her. She wasn't just a quiet student, she was something far more dangerous and skilled than anyone had expected. As the bully finally managed to get to his feet, his pride battered worse than his body, he looked at her with a mix of awe and apprehension. The cocky grin he had worn like armor was gone, replaced by a hesitant, almost apologetic expression. A few of his friends shifted uncomfortably, realizing that the legend they had revered was suddenly human, fallible. Meanwhile, whispers and theories about the girl's background began circulating like wildfire. "Black belt," someone muttered. "Military," another guessed. The energy in the courtyard shifted, from excitement and amusement to tension and respect. Every person watching felt the subtle change, as if the air itself acknowledged the arrival of someone extraordinary. The girl finally spoke, her voice calm, measured, and carrying an authority that seemed to quiet even the murmurs. "I didn't come here to fight anyone," she said, glancing briefly at the bully. "I just help when I can. That's all." Her words were simple, almost casual, yet they carried weight. They reminded everyone that true strength didn't need to be flaunted or feared, it needed only to exist, ready and disciplined, to command respect. Students began to scatter slowly, some in awe, some whispering excitedly to their friends, all aware they had witnessed a rare lesson in humility and skill. Even the janitor, who had been passing by unnoticed until now, paused to shake his head in disbelief, muttering quietly to himself about how unexpected heroes often come in quiet forms. By the time the courtyard emptied slightly, a buzz lingered in the air, stories already forming in everyone's minds. The girl walked away with steady steps, calm and unbothered, leaving behind a campus that had just been reminded that appearances could be deceiving, and that real mastery often spoke loudest in silence rather than noise. The black belt bully remained on the edge, quietly nursing both his pride and his bruises, silently acknowledging that one small, precise move had changed not only his day but the perception of power across the entire school. By the late afternoon, the courtyard had returned to its usual rhythm, but the energy felt different, electric with whispered conversations and curious glances. Students replayed the videos they had recorded, analyzing the girl's movements frame by frame, sharing theories about her identity, her training, and how one person could so decisively control a bully known across the campus for his strength. Teachers and security had long left, satisfied that the situation was under control, yet the buzz persisted. Everyone had felt the subtle shift, the realization that strength without discipline is empty, and that quiet confidence can command respect more effectively than arrogance or brute force. And in the center of it all, the girl walked calmly toward the exit, backpack slung over one shoulder, blending into the dispersing crowd as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. Despite her composed demeanor, a few students dared to approach her cautiously. "Hey," one called, a mix of curiosity and admiration in his voice, "how did you, are you trained in martial arts or something?" She stopped briefly, offering a small, polite smile. "I've trained for a while," she said simply, her tone humble, avoiding any hint of boasting. That alone made her presence feel larger. People respected her not because she had flaunted her skill, but because she carried it quietly, letting her actions speak for themselves. A few students exchanged wide-eyed glances, realizing that the girl they had underestimated was far more than they had assumed. It wasn't just her technique, it was her mindset, her control over the situation, and the way she had never let fear or anger dictate her movements. Meanwhile, the black belt bully sat alone on the bench, staring at the ground. His friends had drifted off, awkwardly trying to save face and come up with excuses for what had just happened. For the first time, he felt vulnerable in a way he hadn't in years. Pride and ego wrestled with raw humility as he replayed the encounter over and over in his mind, noticing how every step he had taken had been anticipated, every movement redirected, every bluff exposed. A knot formed in his stomach, the kind that comes not from physical pain, but from the realization that someone he had considered beneath him, someone quiet, seemingly ordinary, had shown him up completely. The weight of that revelation pressed on him, and for once, the laughter that had always been his armor was absent. Elsewhere on campus, rumors were already spinning out of control. Social media feeds were flooded with clips of the confrontation, captioned with speculation about her background. Is she in the military? Black belt in what discipline? Did anyone else notice how she anticipated everything? Teachers overheard students discussing her technique, impressed and, in some cases, a little intimidated. By evening, even the principal had heard about it, noting how the entire campus had witnessed something extraordinary without anyone getting hurt. It became clear that the girl's actions were going to redefine how power and respect were viewed at school. No one could deny that she had made her mark, not through loud boasting or threats, but through precision, composure, and courage. Later, as the sun dipped behind the campus buildings, casting long shadows across the walkways, she walked past the empty sports fields, the wind catching her hair lightly. There was no rush, no attention-seeking flourish, just a calm presence that left an impression far deeper than the spectacle of the morning. She passed the bully, who had finally stood and was now watching her with a newfound respect, almost reverence. He nodded slightly, a quiet acknowledgement of her skill and the lesson he had learned. It wasn't an apology, not exactly, but it carried the weight of understanding. Some battles aren't about winning, they're about recognizing mastery and humility in others. By nightfall, stories of the encounter had reached nearly every corner of the campus. Students retold it in classrooms, dorms, and cafeterias, emphasizing not just the action, but the calm confidence that had made it possible. The girl, meanwhile, returned home, unaware that she had become a symbol for courage and discipline, an example of how strength wielded with control and respect could transform perceptions. In her quiet way, she had reminded everyone of a universal truth. True mastery doesn't need an audience to be powerful, it commands attention simply by existing. And for those watching from afar, waiting for the next viral clip or sensational story, there was one final lesson: respect is earned through skill, composure, and integrity, not intimidation. The girl's actions rippled through the campus, leaving a lasting impression that would be remembered for years. Her story was not about the bully's fall, but about the way one person, grounded in confidence and discipline, could silently change the entire landscape of a school. Before signing off, if you enjoyed this story and want to see more incredible real-life tales, make sure to subscribe to our channel Her Stories. We bring you inspiring, unforgettable moments that redefine courage and resilience. Don't miss out.